Yeah, I was asked to come and talk about attending virtual conferences. And so, um, yeah, but before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit about what I do in the Career Center. I lead a team of advisors, and I have been an advisor for over 20 years in career and professional development. And for many of those years, I was in a liaison role with the College of Engineering, so very familiar working with engineering students. Now my colleague Heidi Gilbert is in that role where she is the liaison with the College of Engineering, for those of you who are in engineering. And my colleague Leanne Lease, if there are any people who work with computers who are in the College of Business. My colleague Leanne Lease is the liaison for the College of Business right now for our office. But I lead a team of advisors, and Heidi, who is the liaison for engineering, is on my team. So anyway, let's get started talking about going to virtual conferences. So what's our plan for today? To help you prepare for upcoming virtual conferences, to give you some tips to navigate those virtual conferences and what success looks like from the little bit of time that I'm going to spend giving this presentation, is to increase your comfort level with going to a virtual conference and to identify some action steps that you might be able to take before you go to a virtual conference. And so it looks like the chat is oh, here it is. So I'm curious what you're looking forward to about the upcoming virtual conferences that you might be going to. So if you want to share that in the chat, or if you want to speak up, you can speak up. But I'm just curious to get us going. What are some things you're looking forward to? Does anybody want to share? You can either put it in the chat or you can just speak up. Anybody looking forward to anything related to virtual conferences? Okay, so one person says networking, one person says they're going to TAPIA, and okay, great. Another person is going to the WE20 conference this year. Great. So that's great to hear that you're getting to go to some of these conferences. So let's start talking about some tips for you to follow as you prepare to go. So one is for a virtual conference, just like you're all having to learn how to use Brazen for all the virtual career fairs, you're going to want to learn how to use whatever the platform is that a virtual conference is using. There's lots of different ones out there, and so you want to get really familiar with that virtual platform, so you can be prepared for that. Okay. And then second, you want to really maximize your time as you prepare to attend the virtual conference. So look at the agenda, make a plan for things that you want to go to, download information so you have it to quickly reference. Check out the keynote speakers, check out breakout sessions or concurrent sessions, and which ones you want to go to. Are there any special kinds of meetups that you want to go to? Lots of conferences, if this is a first time attendance for you at this conference, lots of conferences have special sessions for first time attendees. So make sure you look out for that, because a lot of times those kinds of sessions have really good tips for you to learn to help you have the best experience at your conference. And then a big thing with anything virtual is for you to really work hard to try to avoid distractions. So block your calendar so you won't be interrupted. I like this one tip that someone had where they said, when trying to focus during an online conference, I found it helpful to minimize distractions ahead of time. I found a quiet, comfortable space. I put away my phone. I closed any non-conference related windows on my computer. I also made sure I had a laptop charger and headphones nearby just in case I needed them. And doing those things, this person said, help them really be present, which can be challenging when you're conducting your life online. So some good tips there. And then make sure that you participate and take notes. So respond to polls. Many conferences have hashtags that you can follow and you know, share your comments following those hashtags as well. Many conferences use an event app. So you can download the app so you can really get really good information about what's going on with the conference. Some other tips, one is to keep your video on so that other attendees at the conference can see you. It helps discussion flow because there are visual cues for the presenter. It makes it more personal, and it also keeps you accountable and to pay attention. And then I asked some of my coworkers for some tips because we've been going to virtual conferences ourselves lately for the past few months. And so one of my coworkers said that one tip that she had to share was that she took screenshots and made notes in a document so she wasn't trying to type or write out a whole lot of stuff, that the screenshots really helped her if there was something that she wanted to go back and look at. And it really helped her actually being able to listen and only take a few notes. And another coworker said that it's also helpful to stand up and listen when you've been sitting for a long period of time, and also recommended to try to get outside for a few minutes during breaks during the conference so you can get some fresh air between sessions. And still, another one of my colleagues said that he actually found himself paying more attention to the chat conversations that were going on during the presentation than to the speaker. And he said that it might be helpful to maximize the screen or whatever you can do so that feature doesn't show up, so you can really pay attention to what's going on in the actual session. So that might be something for you to consider as well. And another big tip is for you to really take advantage of going to this conference by networking. So how can you make connections? Is it possible for you to make those connections before the conference even starts? Is there a list of attendees in that app where you could reach out to people and maybe you connect with them on LinkedIn before the event even begins? So that's a nice thing. And then taking advantage of happy hours or other kind of meetups, kind of sessions that they might have. A good thing for you to do as you prepare to go to a conference is to set some goals for yourself, whether it's in person or virtual. You know, what's your goal for how many people you want to meet every day of the conference? Maybe you try to talk to at least 3 people every day, but just to set that goal and set a goal for what you want to learn. Or, you know, or people, you have a question about something and you want to talk to people and get an answer to a certain question. I know for me, when I go to conferences, I'm going to turn off my video because it's saying my internet connection is unstable. Okay. So one thing that I do is I set a goal for, I want to talk to, you know, 3 people who are responsible for something I'm responsible in my office. So that's one thing that really helps me as far as goal setting, is get other people's perspective on something that I do. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Another thing that you want to do is prepare your introduction. And so I have up here, hello, my name is who, what, and a question. And so, as you prepare your introduction, you want to talk about who you are, some things some key skills or things that you bring. What is it that you're looking for? And then end with a question. And it's a good idea to end that introduction with a question because it makes the other person talk and gives you a little bit of a break. So that's a nice thing for you to do at the end of an introduction. Okay, and you're probably getting lots of practice with your introduction, whether you're typing it or whether you're doing it in a video chat with career fairs that are happening this week and in the rest of September. And so a final tip that I have is don't forget to follow up. So after you make all those contacts, make sure that follow up is also a part of your plan. And so let's talk about what are some ways that you have followed up with people in the past. Does anybody have any suggestions of ways that are good to follow up? If you could share those via chat. So people said LinkedIn, email. Great, send an email. That's right, send an email thanking them for their time. That's really good. So sending a thank you note is a nice way to make yourself stand out with anybody that you meet. And then if it's people that you really want to stay connected to, requesting a connection after you meet them on LinkedIn so you can stay connected with them. That's another good thing in addition to email. But following up is a great way to really make yourself stand out and also maintain that connection. Okay, so let's see. Let me go to the next one. What are either sharing some things that you learned about virtual conferences? What were some things that you learned during our discussion about virtual conferences? Or what are some questions that you have that maybe I haven't addressed or that you'd like to know more? If you want to share that in the chat, I'll be glad to address your questions. Does anybody have any questions or you want to share some things that you learned? Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like anybody has any questions. So I
Excuse me, I actually have a quick question.
Yes.
So you said to go to the virtual networking happy hour event things. How do you recommend socializing in that? Because I've been to a little Zoom party event and it seems that everybody speaks over each other. So how would you recommend avoiding conflict there?
Wow, that is really hard. If I was running the event, I know what I would suggest, and that's telling people to popcorn around where it's like, you say something and introduce yourself, and then you call on someone else whose name you see on the for them to share whatever they're sharing. So everyone gets a chance to talk. I use that all the time in our office. That works really well. Maybe if a chat is available when you're in that kind of room, to maybe say, put in the chat something that you would love to talk with somebody about, so you could talk to them. Anybody else have any other suggestions?
I know this might not apply all the time, but this raise your hand option on the Zoom panel, I think you could try using that, and maybe the host would call on you then.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good idea. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions people have?
There's a question in the chat that I think I saw. It says how to reach out to recruiters before virtual GHC.
Oh, okay. How to reach out to a recruiter? So, well, several things. One is you could request to connect with them on LinkedIn, and you could say in your request, tailor your request, and say, I noticed that that you're attending the conference that I also plan to attend. I'd really like to connect with you to stay up to date what's going on with your organization, and I'd also I hope to connect with you while we're at the conference. So you could reach out to them via LinkedIn. You might be able to, if you get in the conference information, you might have the recruiter's contact information in the conference information, where you could send them an email, introduce yourself, and share your resume with them. That's a smart thing to do. It really is. Yeah. And doing it in advance is really good. Any other questions?
Hi again, I have another question. So I noticed that a lot of the Zoom calls, you don't get to really have a personal interaction, because you're not, oftentimes you're not seeing the person's face. And that might be hard, hard to have interactions. What do you recommend to make it feel more personal and get close to the same interaction as you would if you were meeting face to face?
Wow. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than face-to-face communication. So, I mean, that's really challenging when you might be looking at a black screen. But asking them questions, what are some things that that you want to share with that person that you'd like to know about them, and just asking them some questions to try to get to know them better. Is what are things that you want to share with them, that you'd like them to share similar things about themselves, to try to get to know them better.
Thank you. That was very insightful.
We do have, so we have an online career planning guide that I will pass on to be shared with you all. And in that online career planning guide, there are suggested questions. There's a page about going to a career fair, and there's some suggested questions for when you're initially meeting someone, some suggested questions to ask. And so I will send that that link and tell you the page that is on, so you have those some helpful questions to use.
Thank you.
Let's see, any other questions that people have? Well, do you have any questions about virtual, since we still have a little bit of time? If you have questions about virtual career fairs, I'd be glad to answer those questions as well, since we still have a little bit of time, or any questions about going to a conference in person. I'm glad to answer any kind of questions like that. Nobody has any questions. Okay. Well, my final slide here just shows you some ways that you can connect with career and professional development. So if you want to make an appointment, you can do that via our handshake system, and we could either meet by Zoom or by phone with you. Right now, we're doing 15-minute mini appointments. That's in place of what we used to have drop-in advising, where you could stop by our office, but during COVID, we're not doing drop-in advising. And so we do 15-minute mini appointments that can either be by phone or by Zoom, and you can sign up for one of those via handshake. And then you have my email address and also my LinkedIn URL if you want to connect. So I think that was all I had today about going to virtual conferences. So I wish you all the best as you attend your virtual conference that you're planning to go to. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Okay, so thank you so much, Claire, for all the information you shared. Moving on, we're gonna now start our career panel, where we have a few company reps, Alam, Dr. Sayam from the CS department, who are gonna answer our questions. And so how this works is we have a few questions said before that I'm gonna ask to all the people on the panel. And then we have a few minutes later on for people who have their questions, and you can unmute them, or you can drop in the chat and I can read those for you. So just to begin with, Dr. Sayam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. This is Mohammed Sayam. I am a collegiate assistant professor in the computer science department. I've been affiliated with Virginia Tech since 2013. I got my PhD there, and then I continued my career. I have attended both Grace Hopper and Tapia for the past 3 years. I have attended Tapia as a grad student and then as an advisor for my teams. For the past few years, we have been having this process of the CS at VT providing some scholarships for our students to attend both conferences, because they are the two major diversity conferences in the States. And I have been enjoying the process personally. I got to know some of the most brilliant students who are very well engaged in diversity activities on campus. So I think I was invited to be in this panel to speak about my past experiences attending these two conferences. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Of course, this year is unique. It's going to be virtual conferences for the first time, as everything is happening for the first time this semester. So yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sayam. I can move on to Rebecca, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hi guys. I actually just graduated from Virginia Tech this past spring, so kind of a weird situation I'm sure you guys are familiar with, but I went to Grace Hopper the past 2 falls. And when I went in 2018, 2 years ago, that was through the VTCS department. I got the scholarship for that, and that was the first time I went. And then I went again on my own because I loved it so much the first time. And then I guess my past, like to go over my career experience, summer of 2018, I interned at Booz Allen Hamilton. I got that internship through the CS Career Fair at Virginia Tech. Then when I went to Grace Hopper, I got an internship with Disney and I interned there this past summer in 2019. And now I'm working full-time at Microsoft, which I also got at Grace Hopper. So I can talk a lot about interviews and that kind of stuff if any of you want to reach out and help or talk to me about any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a different experience this year, but I can try and help you guys in any way I can.
Thank you, Rebecca. That sounds very exciting, all the stories about your internship. Moving forward, we have Naomi here from Goldman Sachs.
Hi, my name is Naomi Neko. I'm predominantly a front-end software engineer at Goldman Sachs. I've been there for over 2 years, if you include my internship involved with that, but I graduated in 2019 from Colgate University, and I'm currently working in the core engineering division at Goldman.
Thank you for that. And we already know Claire's here for the panel too. I'm not sure if somebody new joined, but Claire, would you like to introduce yourself again?
Hi, I'm Claire Childress, and I'm an associate director in the Career and Professional Development Office. And I have been to a number of professional conferences myself, whether they're national, regional, or state, and I've also helped run them. So very familiar with the conference experience, and have also attended a virtual conference myself. So I am familiar with that experience as well.
Thank you, Claire. We have Linda here, who is a grad student at VT. So Linda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Linda Kuchit. As I've been introduced, a PhD student, my final year, knock on wood. This is my second TAPIA that I'll be attending this year, and I'm happy to share any insights that I had from last year and the strategies that I have for this year as well.
Thanks, Linda. We're really excited to hear how TAPIA was last year. And so we can move on to questions, and I think we can keep the same order as the intros. I can say it again. And so our first question that we had was, what should a student expect when attending a conference like TAPIA or Grace Hopper Celebration? Dr. Sam, would you like to go first?
Okay, so I think I missed your voice. So can you say it again?
Yeah, so the question was, what should a student expect when attending a conference like TAPIA or Grace Hopper Celebration?
Well, yeah, since you're asking about students, so I would rather defer it to the fellow students who have attended the conference as students. I might talk about my experience as a grad student when I attended, but that was like 5 years ago when I first attended, I think 6 years ago when I first attended TAPIA. And for me, it was something that was new because, you know, for us as grad students, we always go to conferences where we get to publish papers. So the main goal for us was usually the big names in our field, and we are expecting some feedback about our work, and it's all about this. But then going into conferences like TAPIA and Grace Hopper, which are not about our scientific contribution. It's more about the diversity and how we can celebrate our differences. This was a new experience for me. And I was kind of surprised by how people are very friendly and how everybody was trying to get to know each other, and how they are trying to help you no matter what. They don't even know what you might need, but people are always offering this kind of help. And here I'm very specific, talking about the two conferences that are coming the next 2 weeks, TAPIA and Grace Hopper. So it's quite different from the other scientific conferences because the community there is different. So I would assume that when students are applying for these conferences, it's most probably because they have heard some good feedback from everybody who has attended before. And I would assume that one big thing about Grace Hopper in particular is like what Rebecca said, the career fair, and how it's, I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but you have a very high opportunity to get an internship or an offer just by attending the conference and by speaking with some recruiters in the career fair. So for Grace Hopper, I would see this as a big thing. But on the other hand, I've always tried to push our students to attend technical talks and speak to people and spend some happy hours and attend the after parties, the thing that happened after the official conference sessions, because this is where the actual conversations happen between you and the recruiters, between you and the company representatives, and it always ends up in some good offers. I've been there for 3 years with students, and every year we have many students like Rebecca have just shared. They are getting offers everywhere, and I'm glad to know that she's now in Microsoft. I've never known this before, so congratulations. It was really good news to know. But I think our students will have even more insights on what they are expecting from attending these conferences.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sam. And before we move on to Rebecca, we have Caitlin here from Lyft. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Sorry for being a few minutes late. Was having some technical issues joining, but thank you all for having me. My name is Caitlin Amadon. Just quickly about myself, I'm a university recruiting manager at Lyft, and I've been with Lyft for about 3 years. Priyanka invited me to join the panel as we actually met at TAPIA conference last year. And I've been going for the past 3 years, and just think it's a really great opportunity. Lyft ourselves, we love attending, and just am here to share any best practices, tips, and tricks for all of you listening, and just thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. And we were just moving on to our first question, which was like for our students who are attending the conference for the first time, what should they be expecting? And so I can move on to Rebecca to answer the question and then come back.
Sure. So I guess my experience is definitely going to be a lot different than how it's going to run this year, and I'm still not exactly familiar with.
This is Spectrum. Your technician team is en route to your.
Sorry. Yeah, so the conference is definitely going to be different this year, and I'm not exactly sure how they're planning on running everything, but in my experience, the first year, it was definitely really overwhelming because it's a massive conference. Man, I don't even remember the number of people. It's thousands and thousands of girls. And that's really cool as a girl, just seeing that many other women who are in technology and passionate about it, because you don't always feel that at school, especially when you're surrounded by guys. So that was really cool. Basically, some of the main things I'd like to point out are like obviously the career fair is like a big thing. Having time to I don't know, I feel like let me try to put this into better words. I guess my first point about going to the conference now that it's virtual is especially having a schedule and trying to have buffer time to do everything that you want to do. I guess kind of making a bullet point of which companies do I want to talk to, try to prioritize those and go to those first. Which sessions do I want to hear, go through the list and pick out a couple that are your top priority, because there's so much stuff there that you can go and see, but you're not going to make it all in the few weeks. And then I would also say, because I had to do this the past 2 years, was I had to miss a week of classes because I actually flew out to Orlando and to Houston where the conferences were. And I would like hope that you guys do it the same way, even though you're still going to be in the same spot and not actually going there. I feel like you guys should still try and do all your schoolwork and everything ahead of time so you don't have anything distracting you, and really just focus on the conference and focus on any interviews and stuff you have too. Because it can be a lot. It was draining just like having to fly out and everything and deal with interviews. So if you have to deal with like schoolwork on top of all that stuff, like I could imagine that would be really stressful. So I would try to like have a schedule and try to plan it all out ahead of time as best you can. It's not all going to go perfectly because technology happens, but yeah, I guess that would be kind of my main advice and main summary of how the conference sort of goes. Also go to the fun things like the closing and opening sessions. I've seen that they're gonna have like some really cool speakers this year. Like I know Megan Rapinoe is going and she's on the US Women's National Team. So there's gonna be some cool speakers that you guys should definitely listen to too. So don't just make it about career stuff too. Try to have a little bit of fun. Yeah.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was great advice. So Naomi, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can speak to, so I've been to Grace Hopper as a student, and then I've also worked with one virtual conference as a full-time employee. So I would say first, as a student, to reiterate what Rebecca said, it is overwhelming, but that's okay because it's overwhelming for everybody. So definitely do try to make that schedule. I would say do like exactly what Rebecca said, find out the companies you want to go to. I would also highlight the technical sessions as well, which I think was mentioned, but you know, it gives you the opportunity to one, see what other companies are doing, which you don't really hear about a lot, and also just expose you to new technologies that you don't know about. Like for example, for me, I went to a smaller school than you guys, but I didn't have access to a lot of the technical courses that were available at like larger schools. So I used Grace Hopper as a way to expose myself to those technologies that I didn't have access to. So I would definitely emphasize that because it is really beneficial to go to a technical session from a company, and then you can go to that company's booth and reference the technical session that you listened to and say how you were interested in or how it related to your coursework or other things that you are interested in outside of technology directly. And other than that, I would just say, because this is a virtual conference, my experience with a virtual conference earlier this year, just be patient with the technology. It's not always going to work perfectly, but always know that the recruiters are there because they want to reach out to you. So they're going to find a way to meet with you. There's a lot of opportunities there. They have your emails. You have their emails in a lot of cases as well. So don't be afraid to reach out. Worst case scenario, they may not respond to an email, but at least you know you reached out and you gave them that chance to reach out back to you.
Thanks, Naomi. Linda, do you want to go next? I don't think we can hear you.
Sorry, I needed to mute it. I'm using a phone. I'm thankful that you talked about Naomi and Rebecca have touched upon the fact that it's going to be overwhelming for Grace Hopper. I will talk about Tapia because I attended Tapia. So for those who are going to Tapia, I would say two things. One is specific to Tapia, and then the second thing is also specific to both as a virtual conference. About Tapia, it's a smaller conference compared to Grace Hopper, and there's a mixed gender, so it's not just all women. Tapia is my favorite of the conferences, of the diversity conferences that we have for many reasons. But mostly going there knowing that there are going to be people like you. So what are your interests beyond you looking for a career and having the opportunity to talk to recruiters and companies, beyond you attending the talks just to listen to what the researchers and leaders in the field are doing? Find friends there. I found really good friends from Virginia Tech because these are people that we never really interacted because our research and our classes never really connected. But then because we're all going to Tapia together, you have a chance to kind of know each other, know each other's research and what they're interested in, where they're from, and you start making friends for life. And the reason why I was invited to this, I know some names from the participants because we met at Tapia, and I got to know you outside of the class context. So going in there, knowing that you're going to look for career, yes, but also finding your people. So if your people is you're looking for other Virginia Tech students, then use it to do that. Make friends. These are friends you're going to see them maybe in your career, maybe it's going to be later on. But this is a really good opportunity for you to be able to do that. Regarding virtual conference, I'm glad that Naomi touched upon the fact that there's going to be glitches, which is fine. I would say here that everybody's really patient with virtual environment, so they're going to give you grace. If something is happening and you have technical issues, you can't connect and things like that, people are very patient because everybody's in the same boat. So you're going to get grace extended to you. So also extend grace to others as well. So maybe you're attending a talk and or you're seeing a poster and there's technical glitches. Be patient with them as they're patient with you. And I feel that becomes a more friendly and more I don't know, you want to be, it becomes more personal. It's like it's a home, like everybody's trying to make everything work together. So yeah, so make use of all the resources that are there for you career wise and talk wise, but also use that to find your people, because these are the people you're going to meet either in your career or in your future. So yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Claire, you want to go next?
I'll just kind of follow up what Linda said there. From my own experience, it's really true about meeting people at a conference and they become your friend. There are so many people that I've met throughout my professional life who have become friends. And it's from seeing them every year at the professional conference that I go to every year, and I've gotten involved in that organization. And it's just so true to really work hard to try to meet people, and you very well could end up with a friend for life. It's a great opportunity for that. It really is.
Thanks, Claire. Caitlin, do you want to go now?
Yeah, thanks. I think I won't touch on too much because I think everyone had really great points about just navigating career fairs in general, conferences between TAPI and Grace Hopper. One thing that I will point out too, just from an employer perspective, is obviously, to everyone's point, give yourself grace. This is going to be new for us too. New to try and get that same type of personal interaction with students that we're used to. When you can go up and shake someone's hand at a booth, it's a lot different. So I think just remembering that going into a virtual conference with the idea that you're intentional and you're focused on, just like if you were to meet someone at a booth in real life. So really trying to minimize distractions. I even like the idea of really going in and turning off your notifications, trying not to be distracted, and really just engaging in those opportunities that you have the chance for. I think for me, if I'm thinking of it, I'm a student, you can actually really use this to your advantage if you're seeking a job. Instead of having to fumble around and make sure you have enough resumes, now you can virtually share things over the chat features. So really make sure you understand too, when you're getting into the virtual environment, like really take a moment to figure out what that is, what it looks like, what rooms you're going to be going into, understand the platform, because that's a great way to say, like, hey, I connect with someone, let me quickly share something, let me show a link to a portfolio, let me share a fun photo, whatever it may be. I think just remembering that at the end of the day, you're still talking to another person on the other line. And as an employer, we typically remember a lot of those interactions where it's not just this one-to-one kind of robotic interaction, but really get to know you. So just use the virtual aspect to your advantage is my one recommendation.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. And from all the advice you guys have shared, just moving on to the next question, is what things would you feel you would have changed with all your past experiences attending conferences? And we can get started with Dr. Soyam.
Okay, so I thought you said I should go, right? I missed your voice again. I'm sorry, my internet connection is not the best.
Yeah, I can say the question again.
No, it's okay. I get the question. So I think this time I got the question correctly because I got it wrong last time. So I would say from the student feedback that I got last years, because every year I asked students to provide some written feedback about the conference. So I can speak from my experience with this kind of feedback about what they would like to change if they are attending again. The first thing that always comes is that they wish they were able to attend more of the technical sessions. Because when you go to a big conference and you are overwhelmed by the number of sessions, you sometimes find it hard to choose which session to attend. Plus, if there is a huge career fair and you want to spend as much time as possible to talk to recruiters, then you get to forget or not have time to attend the technical talks. So the first thing that I think that people might want to change in their conference experience is to try to find time to attend technical talks. And I think this goes to the question that was just shared over the text box, which is asking about how we can participate in technical topics. And I would say that by attending the technical sessions, I mean, there are a lot of technical talks that are going to happen. Some of them, actually, most of them are happening in parallel. So you have like 6 or even more sessions happening at the same time. And there's always going to be one session that you would be interested in attending. So yes, you'll have to give up some time from the career fair conversations to attend this talk, but keep in mind that attending these kind of technical talks would give you more chance to talk to recruiters or academics who are presenting their work, or trying to find a position in a grad school if you want to have your start your master's or PhD program. So these sessions, I think, are really important to attend. The second most important thing that I think people wanted to focus on is to talk to more people. I mean, yes, again, career fair is great and talking to recruiters is great, but there are many other people who are not recruiting during the conference, but they are great to know and they can be friends for life, as Linda shared, or they can just be people who you can get their contacts and then follow up later. They might have something for you that will come up a year from now, but not right now. So just spend as much time as possible trying to connect with people. Of course, it's going to be different online, but this is something that we need to focus on. Finally, with all the talk about how do we make conversations happen and what happened if I got interrupted and I couldn't say something that I wanted to, I would say make sure that you are using the text box, the chat box, because if you say something and the internet wasn't good enough, like what just happened with me right now, you are missing what's being said, or they would miss what you have said. But if you write it down on the text box, it will always be there. So even the internet goes bad, they will come back and they can see what you have said. So make sure that you are not only saying it loud, but try to also write it down on the chat box. So I'm just gonna leave it there so to give some time for the other speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. Rebecca, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I kind of already touched on this when I first talked, but I kind of got to do, I guess, a do-over when I went to Grace Hopper the second time. Like I learned a lot from going the first time, and I was able to kind of fix some of the things that I wanted to do better. And so the first time around, I was definitely way more overwhelmed because it's such a massive conference, and I didn't really have everything scheduled and as planned as I would have liked. And so the second time, I definitely tried to prioritize, like, because you want to talk to everyone, you want to go to all these different things. So I sat down, made a schedule, and I gave myself breaks in my schedule too, because I was so exhausted from standing on my feet all day, and you're going to be exhausted in a different way. But so made a schedule of which companies I wanted to talk to, which sessions I wanted to do, and when my breaks were going to be, and when I was going to eat lunch, and when I was going to have dinner. And I made sure that I had let all my professors know I was going to the conference ahead of time, and that I had to reschedule some tests and stuff. And I would try to do the same, just to make sure that you're fully focused when you're at this conference, because the department's paying for you to go. So you might as well take full advantage of that. So I feel like that would be my main advice. And also now that it's virtual, just taking advantage of following for Grace Hopper specifically, Anita B is the organization that puts it on. I'm not sure who it is for Tapia, but like follow them on all social media, follow them on Twitter, join their Facebook group, join all that stuff. And I found so many other resources just from like following hashtags and different things like that. So I would try to like get as much information as you know as you can ahead of time, so you can be more prepared and not stressed when you have to actually be at the conference, because it's harder to plan once you're already there. But yeah, that was my kind of do-over, I guess.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's great advice. Naomi, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I would again reiterate everything that was said. I think that's important. From more of a like company perspective, something that I think Caitlin highlighted is do remember that you are speaking to people. Like I definitely remember my experiences from conferences where I had like maybe a hint of a casual conversation with someone and it kind of strayed slightly away from the technical aspect, but then, you know, was always brought back in. But I do think you should remember that and try to make those like personal connections with people that you're meeting. I would even say like I got my current job because I spoke to a Goldman recruiter about my interest in marketing and how that tied into technology, and that's why I'm a front-end engineer. So like that's kind of how your outside interests along with your technical interests can help guide you to your career choices. And I would also say do leverage the network that you have from your school. Like your professors know people who are at this conference and who are working with different companies. I was able to reach out to other students from my school through my professors who were at this conference. So again, that's a way to expand your personal connections with people while again, focusing on having resumes, focusing on the technical importance, focusing on the companies you want to reach out to, but do show yourself, and that will help you shine from a company perspective.
Thanks, Naomi. Linda, do you want to go next?
Muted again. Most of what I wanted to say has been said, and I think it's a really good feedback about what people had learning from what other people's mistakes and other people's lessons. I would say that I feel like the most, I also had a chance to have a do-over in a couple of conferences. I would say like my first conference was when I had planned, I had written everything down. I knew which talks I wanted to go, who I wanted to go see, why I wanted to go see them. And then I actually attended the conference and I was so overwhelmed I forgot everything that I had planned. So give yourself a little bit of a buffer there, knowing that sometimes you'd have a plan that you made plans and then have alternate plans as well. So there's one company that I wanted to go talk to, and then I found that they were not there, even though they said they were there in the list. They were not there. Have backups. So if you're attending a talk and you think, okay, maybe I would, this is the first priority talk that I want to go to, have a second priority. If you're planning through your career, you're saying these are the top companies I really want to interview with and why, and talk to about my research and why. Have a second tier where you're saying just in case the ones that I want are not there, these are the other ones that I want to work with, and these are the reasons why I want to be able to talk to these recruiters. Because if you've already planned it in your head, even if you are overwhelmed, you've already practiced enough and you know the reason why you're talking to these people, that you'll just, even in your panic, you still remember, oh, I practiced this, I know why I'm doing this. The other thing is social media. This has been mentioned before. I don't know how to emphasize this, especially if this is something that this is especially for you guys who want to, I don't know about the company folks, this is especially for you guys who want to go to grad school and follow that path. Have a professional Twitter account. I cannot tell you how many people I've been able to follow up and talk to just by the virtue of me following them on Twitter and engaging them there. So if you attend a talk and you have your professional Twitter, don't use your @hotgirl Twitter account. Create one with your actual name right there and use it for your professional discussions. Just be excited about every talk that you go to. Tag them and say, hey, I really like this talk, and hashtag whoever the name of the conference. but also have it as a chance for you to engage with those people that even though you may not have a chance to talk to them one by one, but because you were engaged with them online, it's a chance, it's a pin that you put in there, then you can come back around and remind them and say, hey, I did you talk, I was very excited about it. Here's why I want to get in touch with you. So be excited, give yourself time to be overwhelmed for the first however many minutes, and then have at it.
Thanks, Linda. Claire, do you want to go next?
So the do-overs that I have been fortunate to have been for in-person conferences where a lot of times it's like a whole group from our office goes to the same conference. And when that happens, you're less likely to meet lots of new people because you just hang out with the, I enjoy the people I work with. So they're my really good friends. And so we just hang out together. And I did have do-overs, whether it was at a state conference, a national one, or a regional one, where I got to go when I didn't have my coworkers with me. And it was it was a very different experience for me, where I made a whole lot more new friends because I was there by myself. So getting out of your comfort zone and people that you're comfortable being around and meeting new people is just a great thing to take advantage of. Yeah, so going to a conference when you don't know anybody is a really good, it can be a really good experience.
Yeah, that's great advice, Claire. Caitlin, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think everyone brought up really great points again, so I don't have too much to add. But one thing that what Linda was saying about Twitter kind of sparked in my memory of the most recent virtual conference I did with a group called Rewriting the Code. We again, it was kind of unfamiliar from our standpoint and from the student standpoint. So I think really when you do get opportunities to have, whether you're joining a virtual booth or a talk or having a one-on-one conversation, is knowing the time, which sounds like, okay, of course, so you want to like know the time, but there was a situation I found out where I was having one-on-one recruiter chats with students, and all of a sudden they would give you a 5-second countdown to then your connection would just be cut off. And so we realized I was having these great conversations, but then we would, just be shut out of the chat really quickly, and we wouldn't have traded contact information or anything like that. So I think just being really aware of, like, if you do have time and you are making a connection, to really have some sort of next step. So I think that's a good initiative to take on the student side. We'll do it on the employer side, and I think a lot of companies are now keeping that top of mind. But just to make sure, what if you have a really great conversation with a recruiter? Make sure you have a follow-up, you have a contact, maybe what next steps are, whether that's, an application or even just keeping in touch, getting a
following is a message from North Bergen Township.
Yeah, just make that a priority to make sure you have a follow-up, because you don't want those missing connections to just go unnoticed.
Thanks, Caitlin. I did attend the RTC conference, and I would emphasize that time goes out really fast. And so just moving on, before I move on to the next question, I just want to emphasize to all the people attending that you can put in your questions in the chat. We would love to have your questions and address them. And so I see one question here by Murba, and I know Dr. Sayam and Linda did touch on it, but I would like to open it up to anyone else who wants to give their feedback. And I can say the question again. So can you explain more how can we participate in technical topics with companies? I have no idea how can I create this happening.
I guess I can jump in for that. I was at the RTC conference for representing Goldman, and I also experienced those short coffee chats that we had. And I would just say, if you did go to a technical conversation, either presented by Goldman or presenting like financial technology that relates to the company you're speaking with, definitely tie that into the conversation. Regardless if it directly connects, it shows your interest in the company, the interest in the industry, and your curiosity to learn more. So even if you don't have like those direct tie-ins, I do think it is important to bring up because it shows your own curiosity. And I would even say, if you don't have those direct technical topics to discuss, ask those questions. What are the technologies you use? What are your day-to-day look like? And those types of questions that do get into the technical details, but do allow you to have a personal connection with the person you're speaking to.
Thanks, Naomi. And so just to move on to our next question, as we all know, most of these conferences have a career fair, which is the most exciting part, especially as I am attending it too. And so how would you suggest students, how do they stand out, and how do they get a technical interview at the end? And so Dr. Sam, would you like to start with this?
Okay, so I think everybody was talking about preparation. So you need to be well prepared about what companies you really wanted to talk to, what kind of contacts you might already know there, so write them down. Maybe attending, what was just being said, maybe attending a technical session presented by that company, and then when you are getting into the conversation, you can talk about it so that you can show real interest about this. But I think the key here is preparation. I mean, even before attending the conference, I mean, starting now, if you are talking about Tapia or Grace Hopper, you can see the list of the companies attending and the list of technical sessions, and you can make this mapping between the company and what technical sessions they are providing, so that you can plan ahead and try to find the best places to talk to. And again, making, like what Linda said, if you have a priority list, so there are like these 5 companies that I will have to talk to no matter what, and then another 5 companies that you would like to talk to, so that you don't waste your time talking to companies that you are not really interested in just because they are free or they have free slots. It's more important to decide what you really want to talk to, what companies you really want to talk to, and then try to make your conversations more customized or personal with these representatives. You want to show them that you are really interested in this particular company, not just because it's Microsoft or not just because it's Facebook. No, it's more about how your interests can align with what this company is offering.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Sam. Rebecca, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, I agree with everything that was just said. And one extra thing I'd like to add is, I don't know when the resume database opens up, but when it does, submit your resume early. That sometimes, like, I wouldn't even reach out to the company would reach out to me through the database. And they'll look at all the resumes. So go to the career fair and make sure that your resume is up to par. And a lot of times you won't even have to reach out at first. And with Grace Hopper, a lot of companies would just send out like HackerRank type interviews and just said, this is the first round of interviews, do this HackerRank. And when you're done, like, you can maybe move on to the next round of interviews before the conference even has started. And so some companies I was interviewing with, 2nd round, 3rd round at the conference, because I'd done a bunch of interviews ahead of time. And I would be proactive. The Grace Hopper app also has a bunch of contacts for all the companies and stuff in there ahead of time. Again, I'm not sure what's up there yet, but I would also reach out to the companies that you know are going to be there and try and schedule interviews there if they're already scheduling, because some of them are, and it doesn't hurt to ask, it just shows you're interested. So having, like, taking the initiative to do a bunch of that stuff ahead of time is, like, really, really helpful. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, just an update. Yes, the resume databases have opened up for both the conferences. And just as we move on to Naomi next, I want to update that we are going to wrap up at around 7:15-ish. So Naomi, do you want to go now?
Sorry about that. For the question of, can you repeat the question? Sorry, I had to drop off for a second.
So just, do you want me to say the question again?
Yeah, I cut out. You were saying the question.
Yeah. So we were just discussing with the career fairs or in both the conferences, how do you advise to navigate through the technical interview, and how do the students stand out?
I would say in regards to the technical interview, one, I would say you should practice via the HackerRank. Goldman specifically uses HackerRank. So I would definitely do a lot of practice problems there. I would even then say to stand out in the technical interview is to just show what you're thinking. A lot of the times we do want you to get the correct answer, of course, but along the way, you're going to show us how you're thinking of the problem, what do you think the best approach is, and that actually goes a long way as well. So I would definitely emphasize talking through your solution as you're going through it.
Thanks, Naomi. Linda, do you want to go now?
I think I'll simply mention one quick thing here. Don't overlook the smaller companies and government labs. They're also there for you. So don't limit yourself by what you expose yourself to. So while all the big companies with name recognitions are there, have at least one or two of the companies that you're like, oh, what's that company about? Google them, look them up and see if there's something that they're doing, because sometimes they may be a better fit for you than the big companies. So don't overlook them. Just look through the names in there. Look at the government labs. It could be something that fits you. But yeah, I just wanted to add that on top of the experts who know that with the company experience.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Claire, do you want to go now?
So a couple of things. First, some advice that from two authors and their faculty members at Stanford, where they've written a book a few years ago that was called Designing Your Life, that applies design thinking to making your life plans. It's a great book if you need help with that. But I recently saw a video that they did relating job search to COVID. And I really liked what they said, that right now, you really want to try to make your job search more relational rather than transactional. So for you to reach out to a recruiter in advance and make a connection on LinkedIn or any kinds of connections that you can make to really try to build relationships rather than just making it that transaction where you're applying online is a really smart thing to do. And then about the technical interview, I was able to go to a presentation about technical interviews in February before COVID hit in March that was on our campus. And I loved what, I don't remember what of the company representatives said, to think about a technical interview like it's your personal cooking show. And I love cooking shows. I love to cook. So I like the Great British Baking Show. I really like watching that. And so, but for you, like somebody, I think it was Naomi already said, for you to be talking the whole time that you're working through that technical interview. But I really, that image about it being your cooking show, that just really stuck with me. So I think that's really helpful advice.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. I remember I was sitting with you throughout the presentation. Yeah, and Caitlin, do you want to go next?
Yeah. For the sake of time, I'll keep it short as well. But I know just from a employer standpoint and on the lift side of things for all conferences, I think it's just important. And my advice for approaching career fairs is again to really practice. And again, there's two opportunities. You'll probably have to connect with a recruiter or an engineer or an interviewer. And I think one is that like soft skills. You're talking about your resume. Maybe it's a coffee chat. So again, prepare for that as much as you can. You know, you don't necessarily, like I always say, have your elevator pitch, but also just know going into it, have a little research done, know who you're speaking to, know if you're talking to a recruiter versus an engineer, because those conversations could be very different. For me personally, you could talk about your project in deep technical terms and it will go over my head for the most part. So know who you're talking to really understand your audience, and then know kind of what you want out of the conversation. If the main point is to really share your experience and to get connected and to get into the interview process, then make that clear that that's kind of the goal of the conversation, rather than some of the common pitfalls I see are students who come and say like, oh, you know, what's the interview process like? Or there's some questions that you could actually do your own research to really, not because we don't want to tell you, but because we want to make the most out of that short time that we do have when we get to talk to you. So find other ways to really stand out. And then I think there were some great call outs about preparing for technical interviews, which I won't go into, but I think just also being really prepared when you do get those opportunities to go in, and just make sure you're ready and you've practiced.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have any more questions from the audience? If not, does anyone on the panel have last minute thoughts they would like to share?
I would share one last thing. Oh, sorry. I would say, you know, be confident in yourselves. Like something I was as an undergrad, you know, you're seen as there's not a lot of women in engineering and in computer science, but be confident in your skills and be confident that you're in the right place, especially that you're going to a conference like this. As a company, I know you're hardworking. I know you're diligent. I know you're intelligent. So really let yourself shine through and show that confidence that you have for being where you are.
That's the same topic I wanted. So next question.
Yeah, so to kind of build on what Naomi just said about confidence, if you're really nervous before you're getting ready to talk to an employer representative, or you're really doubting yourself as you prepare for some event for a conference, before you get on the platform, for you to stand for 2 minutes in a power pose, like Wonder Woman, or like you just want to race with your arms out like this. For you to stand for 2 minutes, a researcher, Amy Cuddy, she did a TED Talk where she shared this research. But she did research on people preparing for difficult interviews, and some did that power pose and some did not. And the people who did the power pose performed so much better. And I've actually used her advice before I've been nervous before some big thing that I'm getting ready to do. It's helped me personally. And I've talked to students. I've told students that advice. And I told a student last year that advice before he was getting ready to go to an in-person career fair. I was like, go in the bathroom, stand in a stall, stand in that 2-minute pose, and then go into the career fair. And he did that. And he came back and told me afterwards, I have 2 interviews tomorrow. And he's like, this has never happened for me before. And so it really can help. It does something to your brain or something. It really helps build your confidence.
Okay, the one last thing I wanted to say, and I used to tell the students in the past years when in real-life conferences, is just to have fun. I mean, to always remember that this is an opportunity for them to always have fun and meet people and hang out and do this kind of informal conversation. It's not all about getting a job or attending the sessions. So even we are online, give yourself the chance to just take a break and make jokes, and feel free to just jump out and in again if you don't feel like you like the session you're in. So it's all about having fun. Don't get stressed out. Just live the moment, and no matter what's going to happen, there is nothing bad going to happen. It's just a conference, so have fun in it.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing your wonderful advice and taking out the time to come and help all the students. Yeah, we really appreciate all of things you've said today. Thank you.
I just want to echo what Mehak was saying. So I want to thank everyone for joining in tonight. I appreciate all the panelists taking the time to answer all of our questions and share your amazing insight. If you want to learn more about AWC, please check out our website, awc.org.vt.edu. And we hope to see you guys at our data visualization workshop next Thursday with Deloitte.